Hello, everyone. The person I chose for my presentation is Philip A. Randolph, a labor leader and a social activist who fought for the rights of African American laborers, including better wages and working conditions. He was born April 15, 1889, in Crescent City, Florida. In 1891, when Randolph was just 2 years old, his parents, who were supporters of the equal rights for African Americans, moved to Jacksonville, Florida, where he would eventually attend Copeman's Institute, one of the first black institutions of higher learning. In 1911, Randolph, a college graduate, decided to move to Harlem to become an actor. Later in 1912, Randolph made a political move and founded an employment agency called Brotherhood of Labor with Chandler Owen, a Columbia law student. This agency was a means of organizing black workers. In 1913, Randolph married Lucille Green, a graduate of Howard University and a beauty shop entrepreneur. This union lasted until her death in 1963. In 1917, Randolph then took interest in political issues. During that same year, 1917, Randolph and Chandler Owen founded The Messenger, also referred as the only radical Negro magazine in America. This magazine published articles that called for more blacks in armed forces and war industry, and Randolph demanded higher wages. This magazine also took a stand on racial discrimination and economic issues. Later in 1925, Randolph took leadership of a campaign to organize the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, which became the first African American union. The Pullman Company at that time was the largest employer of blacks. Randolph had an uphill battle with the Pullman Company, but in 1937, Randolph won the first contract ever signed by a white employer. Randolph won membership in African Federation of Labor. In 1940, Randolph created a plan to win two major executive orders from the government. In 1941, Randolph developed the March on Washington to protest the exclusion of African American workers from jobs in the war industry. He then later called off the march only after President Franklin Roosevelt issued an executive order 8802, which banned discrimination in defense plants and established the first fair employment practice. This executive order 8802 was a victory, but Randolph suffered much abuse in the black press and member of the MOWM for accepting a compromise. The executive order did not mention segregation in the military. In 1946, Randolph led a campaign in favor of racial equality in the military. Later in 1948, Randolph warned President Harry Truman that if segregation in the armed forces was not abolished, the African Americans would refuse to enter the armed forces. Soon, Truman issued an executive order to stop segregation within the services. During the 1950s, Randolph served as the principal member of various labor boards. However, he also began to devote his time to the civil rights for African Americans. After World War II, Randolph continued to work with organized labor and worried about the relationship between advanced advances in economic and civil rights for African Americans. In 1955, after the AFL-CIO merge reunited the organized labor movement, Randolph accepted a seat on the Executive Council where he called for an end of union discrimination. In 1957, Randolph also organized a prayer pilgrimage to Washington to support the civil rights efforts in the South. And in 1958, Randolph also organized a youth march of integrated schools. A couple of years later, in 1959, Randolph formed the Negro American Labor Council. This organization was an advocacy group dedicated to serving the needs and the civil rights of black workers. This organization, also considered a communist front, was officially branded a communist front by the U.S. Attorney General Herbert Brunel. In 1963, Randolph organized a march on Washington, fighting for jobs and freedoms. On that same day, Dr. King also gave his famous speech, "I Have a Dream." In 1966, Randolph proposed a 10-year program called Freedom Budget. This budget would get rid of poverty for all Americans. In conclusion, Randolph's legacy contributions has had a significance in American history. Randolph is also known for his leadership in labor and in civil rights. His philosophy is also in civil disobedience. In 1942, Randolph received a medal from the NAACP. In 1964, Randolph received the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Lyndon B. Johnson. In 1967, he received the PACIM and Terrorist Peace and Freedom Award. In 1970, he received the Humanist Award of the Year. And in 2014, Randolph's name was added to Florida's Civil Rights Hall of Fame. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Listed here are my references. Have a good day.